Chinese diesel heater, literally just arrived this morning. Timing is a little bit rubbish because the snow's starting to go now, but however, so here's the plan. I'm going to mount the heater on this wall. It's about the only space I've got really, so this will probably have to go, safety first. And then I'm going to mount it up high because what I want to do, I want to add heat recovery to the exhaust. I've seen a lot of people do it and it makes complete sense. So my idea is to put a sand battery. I'm going to get a 205 litre oil drum with a removable lid, put the exhaust through it in a coil, fill it with sand and have the exhaust go out through the wall, and then hopefully that'll retain some heat. Because the way I use this workshop, I tend to come out here for maybe an hour, 2 hours, get a project going, and then backwards and forwards to wherever I'm working. So I'm constantly in and out. Well, I don't want to have to keep turning the heater on or off or not have any heat air at all. So if I can charge this battery up and then it slowly radiate, that might take the edge off, make it a little bit more comfortable in here because it can get cold. I'm unsure of, I've seen a lot of people say about the exhaust size. If you put too long an exhaust on these heaters, it can affect the performance. So I don't know whether to, with the coil in the barrel, go up a size. So maybe increase the flow a little, or whether that would be a bad thing. I'm not sure about that. So if you've got any ideas on that, please let me know. But yeah, today we're going to get this unboxed, have a look at this, and hopefully get it installed. There it is. Now this is an 8 kilowatt, allegedly. I don't quite know how accurate that is. From what I've seen, it's a bit of a, you know, it's not an exact science. Well, there is the thing. Oh, here we go. The 12 volt connections. I'm going to be running this off a battery. If any of you have seen the Joshua Dalal, is it? Starts off with a transformer, then says best to run it off a battery because these have a cooling down cycle. If you think about it, that makes sense. You get a power cut, which we do. It's just going to kill this thing and it'll be red hot. It won't cool down, which could possibly cause problems. I think the idea is it cools it down because the fan's running, stops it from overheating or getting too hot. So yeah, I'm going to be running this off a battery, which is in turn charged by the solar panel in my solar furnace heater. But obviously in the winter, when there's no sun, it's not much use to me. So hence we're going down the diesel route. So there's the exhaust silencer, and it's got a drain hole in it, so that's for the condensation. So I suspect you mount it that way, which should make sense. That's the nozzle for the heat output. That's the hose for it. Yep. And then this is the air intake. Apparently this isn't a filter, this is to balance the state of it. It's to balance the airflow to match the air into the exhaust out, I suppose. And I'm going to be mounting this outside so we're not sucking air from inside and then trying to pull it through the cracks in the building. Exhaust pipe. This is pretty thin, but I'll be getting a longer one of them eventually. Fuel filter, which is good because not a lot of them come with them. So a bag of bolts and some Jubilee clips. A hole cutter, be alright. Oh, 28mm. Right, that'd be alright if you're mounting it in metal. We've got to go through concrete blocks, so 28mm, if that's the size we need, This may not be happening today, but power lead, I'm going to have to make a new one of them up because it's going to be longer than that. And then a remote. This feels pretty cheap. AAA's. I don't really know if that's actually necessary. If you were using it in a vehicle, then yes, probably, but you could just relocate that control panel. Right, that's it for bits. So immediately, I don't know if you can see, this thing's had its butt kicked. Yeah. So be careful with it, it's fairly soft. Let's get this cover off. I don't know how that's going to affect me going, no, it's fine. So this has got the hard hose, which apparently everybody thinks is important, so that's good. Fuel tank there. Let's see where you put the fuel filter, mind. Yeah, see the problem with that. So if you want to install the fuel filter, you're going to have to get some rubber hose on the end of this, and then this plastic pipe's going to have to sit inside that rubber hose with a couple of clips. A bit like they've done here, basically on the fuel pump. But I'm going to run through this, make sure all these things are tight, or as tight as I think they should be. So that's bolted down to that. What I want to do is I want to pull this apart and check the glow plug. It'd be a good idea to know where that thing is, because that's a serviceable item. So this is all very sort of sharp and tinny, and obviously this one's deformed. The whole it's all bent here. It needs another fine adjustment. On this one, looks like these cases split. So there's four 4mm Allen keys. And they are tight. Four screws or Allen key bolts. So that's the top off. The circuit board there, there's the fan. That looks like a temperature sensor. There's little, I'm guessing they're spacer pads, probably keep this away from the case. Stop with some vibrating. Glow plugs under this bush here, but to get to it you've either got to cut down a socket, cut the side out of a socket so you can sneak down by the wires, or past the wires, or have this out and take this plate off. Apparently all this stuff is available, all these parts are available, so that's quite good. There's the fuel pump. Yeah, 20 amp, 20 amp, 20 amp. So 20 amp fuse, just connected to the back of the connectors here, which are just loose. Right, so they're loose, they need nipping up. That one's alright, but this negative one's loose, and I think you can see that spinning. It's see that nut spinning, so there's just two nuts there. So 10 mils probably. So they'll need nipping up, so that's not a good start. So 10 mil nut and just a ring terminal. See how loose that is. You can nip that up and then put the ring terminal back on. Loose connections are a problem. They'll generate heat. The high resistance will generate heat, and we don't want that. But while we're here, check the other side, because no, that's not very tight. So it's just got a grill on one side, that'll be the air intake, so that'll go fan side, and that's the outlet. Combustion takes place in here, heats these fins up, air gets blown across it, sucked in through here, blown across there, so it keeps the circuit board cool. That's on the cold side of this combustion chamber, and then hot air comes out of there. It's as simple as that, he says. Make sure them little grommets are still on, and then this should sit down. It's got pegs on here. You've got these little pegs, and there's 3 holes either side. So you've got to make sure that that sits in like that. Depending on how well this is made. There we go. Right, so that's that. Screws. Make sure this goes together by hand. Don't buzz it down with a nut driver, as everybody wants to. The what should we call it? Manufacturing tolerances. There we go. The importance of nipping these down by hand. I've got 3 of them in, but this corner was sitting up. So don't don't be tempted to just keep tightening it down, because all you'll do is you'll probably break or flatten them little pegs, round them off, and then they'll be next to useless then. But yeah, I just had to slacken off the screws, give it a wiggle, and then make sure it was down. Right, now seems to be an awful lot of unnecessary fuel pipe there, but I suppose if you decide against keeping it in this case, you might want an extra length. We'll check all these, make sure these are tight. Now, I've got the same complaint as everybody else really. These are very sharp edges, and natural vibration could tear into that quite easily because this is only obviously soft plastic. So it's worth finding a bit of U-trim, door trim, something to go around the edge of that. Alright, there's a heater. Now we've got to find where is it? We've got to drill a 28mm hole, or two 28mm holes at least, and measure that through that brick wall. So this is my thoughts. I've warmed this up because obviously this is it's freezing cold out here, and this has just come off the delivery van, so it's really cold. I warmed it up rather than try and bend it cold, because I didn't want to split it because it's really, really thin. And then I've put a elbow, or what would you call it, a bend in it. I put a bend in it, but rather than do a 90, I've done two kind of 45s. I want a gentle curve to it rather than a sharp bend. I don't want to interrupt the flow of gas coming out, but this is, for now, this is what I'm going to be using. But obviously when I go for the sand battery, this will probably become redundant, or it might be a part of it. But for now, I'm going to mount this. This is going to go on the exhaust, which is under here. And then I've got to increase the height of these blocks because I want this to be clear of the floor. Right, so here's my thought. I'm going to stick it in the middle. Reason being is this is obviously going to be temporary. The exhaust is going to come out and go through that wall there, but then when I put a heat battery on it, I'm leaning towards having the barrel this side, and I'm going to want the exhaust to come out and go through the wall there. So if I stick this over here and have the exhaust coming out this wall, I have to drill another hole. So I'm hoping that I'll be able to use this hole when I put the barrel on, which should sit about here. That's the theory. So now I've put it on a couple of blocks, but it is wobbly, but that's temporary. I'll have to make a nicer base, but this will be higher up. Right, we're going to go down and away because the inlet wants to be over that side and the exhaust that side. So I'm going to put a full, so no water, moisture, condensation, whatever can run back in. And this is a pilot. Three down, one to go. That's a 30mm drill bit on there. I don't think you'd want to go, well, you wouldn't want to go any bigger. And to be honest, I think smaller would be a real snug fit because that's about right. 30mm drill bit, there you go. I'll stick a link in the description for that bad boy. Just a little bit of exhaust paste. Just a little bit because I don't trust it. Don't go mad with it, it's not a glue. It will actually go brittle, so don't rely on this for sticking it together. I've just put a grommet, or made a grommet for this sharp edge here, and all this is just a bit of vacuum hose. And just split it down the middle, and a bit of super glue to hold it in place. Stops this hose, it keeps wanting to rub against there, so I think that would be a bad thing, because this could be quite sharp, especially if this starts sort of vibrating. But yeah, just a bit of vacuum hose. This is bothering me now. there's just way too much of it here. Why do we need all this? So I'm going to cut that off and shorten it, because that's just going to make priming it a pain in the arse. Does that fit? Why do we need to do that when we can just do that? Give it a bit of slack. People like this stiff pipe. I'm not a fan of it really. It deforms. We'll see. Right. That's better. And the other thing is, like, the outlet for the fuel tank goes up and then goes down. So this pump's got to lift it up higher than itself, bring it round, and then sort of pressurise it. I don't know how efficient that pump is, but we'll have a look at that, see if there's a better way of routing. That looks better. So that's the output, comes down, runs down here, underneath, goes through another metal hole with no grommet, so find something for that, and then does a horrible 90 underneath there. And I've got rid of this loop by just redoing it, rejigging it so it comes down and then goes up. So and at least this isn't trying to lift it up high to bring it round, and it just kind of makes more sense. It's a bit close to that for my liking, but then the other one runs right next to it, so it must be okay. But maybe we'll put a sleeve or something on that, another bit of rubber, an old bit of fuel pipe maybe, just to act as like a bushing or whatever you want to call it. But I think that's a bit better. We cut a lump out. Don't need that. And look at that horrible 90 in there. I'm going to fill this up. I'm not going to put too much in it. I'm going to check it for leaks. But I'm going to do this now, and then we'll go on to the wiring so that the fuel can just sit there, and maybe some of the bubbles might come out on their own before we even start messing around with the priming it. But let's get some in here. Right, we're above the fuel outlet. There's a bit of a dead bit at the bottom, I suppose, to catch any grit or dirt that goes in there. So we're above that now. And then we'll just let that sit, let that drip. All right, let's get rid of that. What I am going to do, I'm just going to undo this fuel pipe here. Should we do it there? Or should we do it at the top? Let's do it at the top. I'm thinking it might encourage the diesel to come around. I'm using diesel on this. Apparently you can use heating oil. But to get it for the same price, or a decent price, you have to have access to quantities of it, or be able to buy it in quantities, which I can't. Right, there's a one-way valve in there, obviously, so that doesn't help. So yeah, I think it works out about £1.75 a litre. I think if you buy it in, say, 20 litre, 4 5 litre cans, I think I saw it at. Yeah, £1.75 at the moment. I can buy diesel. 140 something it was. Anyway, it's nowhere near the same. Why am I using this big long extension? This should just run it. There we go. That's good. That means that that's not blocked. Get that in quick. Oh, I didn't spill a drop. Look at that. Right, now all the pump's got to do now, you know, it gravity feeds to sort of there, and obviously the more fuel in this, rather than the pump trying to lift it up. Do you see what I mean? It's going to feed itself now, and then all it's got to worry about is just pressurising it to the end of its body, and then down and away. I'll put something around that one, but yeah, let's let that sit. And we'll look at the wiring. To make these ends off, we just need a couple of, I'm going to use, these are fairly thick cables. I'm going to use blue ring terminals. And there's some automatic wire strippers. If you don't like twisting wires, look away. Ratchet crimpers. You can do it with these. It's just awful. So if you can get yourself a pair of ratchet crimpers, they're not that dear. Once you've got them, you've got them. You know what I mean? Right. Blue will be negative. And red will be positive. Now, all things electrical, if you work from your device or whatever, your load to the supply, if you make off the terminals at the battery, then these become live. So for obvious reasons, you don't want these flapping around, arcing out while you're working on the other end. So if you do that first, these are safe now. We can go on with the battery. This is a battery that I'm using. This is charged by my solar furnace, the solar panel in there. This is going to be a better option, I think, than like a charger, because if there's a power cut, the heater won't be able to do its cooling cycle, as we mentioned earlier. But for this, I'm going to put a fuse in there as well. So I've got an inline fuse holder. Just chuck it next to all the others that are there. And when you're wiring it up, don't have the fuse in. We don't need that going live when we're joining wires together. So just a blue bullet connector, and then where's my, again, ratchet crimps, just does a nicer joint, and that goes to the live. Twisting the wires again. I've done videos and people have lost their minds over me doing that, but I've been doing it for 30 years. It's too late for me. Save yourself. Now if you're worried about the connection, you can always put a bit of solder on there just to make that a little bit better, but this is indoors, it should be fine. Right, that's that done. We'll now connect that up to the battery. There you go. This looks messy, but it's literally powering that little doodad there, and these temperature or thermometers. So we've got the inside, the outside, and there's a solar furnace panel on the outside of that. Plus it powers a little PC fan to push air out of that. So yeah, it looks horrible, but there's no load in that. that's the air intake on. I put the exhaust on first, then pushed it through as you saw. But with the air intake, I pulled that through, and then it's easier if you have the cover off. You can get to the Jubilee clip through this gap here, and then just nip it up. But there's not an awful lot of length on that. You'll see as we go outside. I'm going to put the filter doohickey on. I don't know if you can get a longer air intake hose, but I think it might be something worth looking into. Right, for now, it's going to sit there like that. I'm not going to bother with the exhaust silencer because ideally I'd want to bend that round. I don't want to introduce another bend into that. So for now, this is only temporary. In the future, I'm going to put a grill around it, keep the heat, or keep anyone away from the heat. But they're kind of pointing in different directions. Not as much separation as I'd like, but you're limited by the length of pipe, especially when you're going through a concrete block wall. But there again, it wasn't designed for that, was it? So you can't blame them. But that's what it looks like so far. Right, we're going to work through this together. So as soon as you apply power to it, there's a display there. So there's not like a switch to kill the power to that, which I'm not a fan of. So I might put a switch in there rather than keep pulling the fuse. But to turn it on, that's on. It's not particularly bright either. Hopefully you can do that. Let me move you down a little bit. Right, the fan's running barely. First thing you've got to do is you've got to prime this. Well, this is interesting. I didn't even have to bleed it. It just started clicking away, and it took a while for the fuel to come out. Get over the top here, and there's still air in it. But we are starting to generate heat now, so it obviously doesn't mind it. And the exhaust. There's plenty of heat coming out of there, that's the warmest bit of it. On a day like today is appreciated. Oh, let's see how this goes. It has got a minor leak at the bottom on the fuel line, so I've got to deal with that. But I think I might get some new fuel pipe on there anyway. So we're currently 3.9 outside, 3.9 inside, which makes sense because the door's open. But I'm going to run this for a little while and see what it does. It seems to be ticking away. I haven't played with the heat levels. I'm going to have it on its lowest thing probably to start with, but we'll see. So that's running literally at its lowest settings. From a noise point of view, you can't really hear the fan or the combustion. It's the fuel pump. That's the noisy thing. But we've been running now for 11.5 minutes. 11.5 minutes on its lowest setting, and already we're up to 5 degrees. Little bit of an issue. The pump stopped working because that battery's going flat. Obviously charged by solar. There's not a lot of solar this time of year, or the last sort of week or so. It's been dreadful. So that's the new diesel heater. Out the box, you do have to tweak it. You want to take it apart really. Like I say, we had a couple of loose terminals, one a lot worse than the other for the supply, the 12 volt supply. The hose routing is a bit suspect. There's an awful lot of pipe there. I'm not a fan of that pipe either really. I've got a leak on the bottom there, so I'm not running this for too long. We've been at it now for 14 minutes nearly, so I'm going to power it down now, let it cool down and fix that leak. I'm probably going to change the fuel lines because I want to use the filter as well, and you can't really do it with that hard plastic stuff, but it is that. But we're up a degree, which is good. Obviously it's a bit bright out, so the true test will be to come out here at night and do it when the sun's gone, and see what it does then. But it's chucking out heat, which is what I want. I've taken my gloves off, so it can't be that bad now. Install wise, it's fairly quick and straightforward really. Drill a couple of holes. If you've got a big drill bit, I've got a 30mm SDS bit. That made it a lot easier rather than trying to chisel bricks out. But like I say, this is designed for going through metal plates in a car or a vehicle or whatever, so it's not too bad. The worst thing is that pump. Can you hear that? But if you put your hand over it, you can kind of get rid of some of it, but you can feel it. It's a big old clunk going on there. I believe you can get quieter pumps, but they're about 40-50 quid. So whether I go down that route or not, I don't know. If I can heat this workshop up and then turn that off, especially when you're filming, that'd be no good. That in the background is going to drive people potty, isn't it? So other than that, I've got a heater. So it's a work in progress, I think. I don't think they come out of the box, there you go, it's perfect. It's not. You have to tweak it. But next steps, I think, are sort the fuel lines out, stop that from leaking. That could be bad. Carbon monoxide detector, I've got to put that up in here because it does stink a bit, but that might be the diesel I can smell on my hands. And then we'll start looking at the sand battery, because the exhaust is plenty hot, so there's an awful lot of heat going straight out the door or through the wall. So it'd be good if we can recover that. But I'm going to have to extend the exhaust pipe and also the air intake, because I want to turn this more at an angle. I might even raise it up a little bit, make it easier to see the screen. The screen's not very bright, not with my glasses anyway. But there we go. Hopefully you like this one. Check this video out here. I'll see you on the next one.